Today, Jung would nod. If you are unhappy, you are too high up in your mind. In a world full of noise, overthinkers drown themselves in doubt while wolves seize opportunities. Weak souls wrestle with words, while powerful ones move mountains with a single look. He who hesitates, who overthinks, ultimately loses. Nietzsche saw this sickness long before it had a name. Modern man, he warned, had become addicted to abstraction, chained to argument, theory, and sterile rationalism. This, according to him, was a disease, but Nietzsche didn't just diagnose the disease, he offered a cure. This is what I will discuss in today's video, but first we have to take a look at the cause of this, which, according to Nietzsche, was Socrates. How? Let's see. Friedrich Nietzsche didn't just dislike Socrates, he saw him as a cultural catastrophe. In Twilight of the Idols, Nietzsche calls Socratic dialectic the last defense of those who have no other weapons. Reason, he argued, wasn't a sign of strength, but a trick of the weak. A man resorts to dialectics only when he has no other means to hand, he writes, calling Socrates a clown who succeeded in making men take him seriously. For Nietzsche, the dialectician is a manipulator, not a seeker of truth. To Nietzsche, this wasn't just a philosophical issue. It was existential. Socrates didn't merely challenge Athenian values. He represented the collapse of them. Before Socrates, Nietzsche believed the Greeks lived by instinct. They admired power. They acted. They didn't ask whether life was worth living. They lived it. As Thucydides wrote, "The strong do what they can, and the weak suffer what they must." The golden age of Athens was built by aristocrats of the spirit, creators of value who imposed meaning through action, not analysis. They didn't feel the need to justify their strength. In this pre-Socratic world, restraint was weakness, and hesitation was death. It was a worldview that glorified boldness, not reflection. Socrates changed all that. He questioned. He undermined tradition, mocked the gods, and glorified the dialectic. For Nietzsche, Socrates turned the warrior's blade into a philosopher's question mark. Instead of pushing forward, the youth of Athens began hesitating. Instead of trusting instinct, they fell into endless analysis. Nietzsche's hatred for Socrates was also deeply personal. He said, Socrates belonged to the lowest of the low. He was the mob. Just look at him. He was ugly, inside and out. In Nietzsche's eyes, Socrates wasn't just intellectually corrosive, he was physically repulsive, socially marginal, and spiritually resentful. Too weak to lead through beauty, power, or action, he weaponized words. His method of questioning, layer upon layer of doubt, wasn't a pursuit of truth, but a strategy of revenge. Nietzsche saw in Socrates the beginning of a long decline, a civilizational shift from instinct to intellect, from creation to critique. The gadfly didn't awaken the city. He infected it with doubt. This wasn't just a Greek tragedy. Nietzsche believed his own era, and ours, was still suffering the consequences. A world obsessed with overthinking, addicted to argument, and increasingly detached from instinct and action. In Nietzsche's mind, it all started with Socrates. And we're still paying the price. So, what should we do according to the mustached philosopher? Let's discuss. For Nietzsche, instinct was not something primitive to overcome. It was the essence of life itself. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, he states, "There is more wisdom in your body than in your deepest philosophy." This isn't merely a poetic reflection, it is a direct challenge to centuries of philosophy that treated reason as superior to the body. Nietzsche turned this on its head, viewing the body's drives, impulses, and intuitions as wiser, more honest, and more life-affirming than the detached abstractions of pure logic. To think too much, to rationalize every move, that, for Nietzsche, was a sickness, a sign of fear and decay. Healthy people act with confidence and direction. They don't need to explain themselves to the world. Nietzsche believed that the ancient Greeks understood this, at least in their prime. He claimed that they once saw argument as bad manners, compromising. It was only later, during the age of Socrates, that argument and dialectic became an obsession, leading to a cultural decline where vitality gave way to hesitation. This obsession with reason, Nietzsche believed, was part of what made people miserable. When we repress our instincts, our natural urges toward strength, creation, love, and conquest, we do not become virtuous. Instead, we become sick. The drives do not disappear, they turn inward and eat us alive. Nietzsche provocatively asks, do we argue because we believe or because we can't act? And the answer is often cowardice. Modern life, for Nietzsche, is full of such cowardice. Nietzsche would admire the athlete in motion, the musician improvising, the hunter pulling the trigger. There's no time to philosophize. Action happens in the body. Power lies in instinct. Those who constantly overthink, Nietzsche called slaves to reason. Even Socrates, whom Nietzsche mockingly called a noble slave, was still a slave. He argued that we are driven by core instincts, power, creativity, growth, and that fulfilling these drives is the key to joy. Everything else, social norms, and moral restraint, exists to keep people obedient, small, and contained. Nietzsche admired figures like Napoleon, not for his conquests, but for his instinctive power. Napoleon didn't ask for permission. He acted. He shaped history rather than being shaped by it. This, for Nietzsche, is the Übermensch, not a superhero, but a person who lives beyond herd morality. Someone who trusts their gut, who plants their will in the world. This is the lesson Nietzsche teaches. In a culture drowning in opinions, overthinking, and analysis, the way forward isn't more debate. It's action. It's instinct. It's the deep part of you that already knows what to do. In Nietzsche's view, modern man suffers from a profound weakness of will. He is hesitant, obedient, and exhausted, more comfortable with debate than decision, more invested in safety than strength. Nietzsche writes that it is simply a question of strong and weak wills. In his eyes, modern man is not just weak in body, but weak in spirit. Our dominant values, humility, equality, and pity, are not neutral. They are the inventions of the weak, created to moralize their own limitations. This slave morality, as Nietzsche calls it, disguises fear as virtue. The weak decry pride, sacrifice, and ambition, not because they are evil, but because they cannot live up to them. This inversion of values, Nietzsche warns, has turned power into a vice and passivity into a virtue. Strength, in his view, is not brutality. It is autonomy, instinct, and the will to create. Weakness is not gentleness. It is dependency, hesitation, and the need for external validation. Modern man hides behind pity, theory, and endless moral argument, not out of wisdom, but because he's lost the fire to act. In Beyond Good and Evil, Nietzsche declared that philosophers must become commanders and lawgivers, not passive spectators of truth. Real thinking requires courage, strength of will, sternness, and capacity for prolonged resolution. But in the modern world, boldness is often viewed with suspicion, and moral clarity is treated as outdated. The modern man does not build values. He inherits them cautiously and second-guesses them anyway, unlike Übermensch. The Übermensch is not a dreamer or a debater. In modern terms, he might be the artist who creates without waiting for permission, the entrepreneur who leaves a safe job to build something bold, or the thinker who challenges the comforting dogmas of the age. In psychological terms, Nietzsche's critique aligns with what we now call analysis paralysis, when endless thoughts and possibilities replace action. Cognitive science today confirms what Nietzsche sensed: overthinking kills initiative. While Nietzsche's critics have called his ideas elitist or dangerous, often accusing him of being anti-intellectual or even misogynistic, the truth is more nuanced. Nietzsche was not against thinking, he was against thinking without living. He was not against morality, he was against borrowed morality. He wanted action, not obedience. Creation, not conformity. Anyway, that was Nietzsche's offering. As had mentioned earlier, I don't subscribe to every aspect of his philosophy. Instead, I recommend following Bruce Lee's advice. Absorb what is useful, discard what is not, and add what is uniquely your own.